Today's show is brought to you by the voice that is. Doug White is an award-winning boutique that has curated a refined selection of the finest brands from around the world. With a personalized service and a professional approach, TVTI offers only high-quality, high-performance, and end-game level products, all focused on musicality. Whether you're fine-tuning your system setup, searching for your final pair of speakers, looking for audio stands from HRS, Siltech cables, REL reference subwoofers, or balancing your power with Equitech, TVTI has it. Considering upgrading your analog, TVTI offers ultimate turntable brands from Doman Audio and Acoustical Systems, featuring tone arms by Acoustical Systems, SAT, Reed, and Graham Engineering, as well as cartridges from Itsuro, Lyra, Airtight, and Acoustical Systems. No matter your ultimate audio needs, Doug has a solution that will make your system sing. Check out a complete list of Doug's premium equipment at thevoicethatis.com. Hey, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. We are podcasting live from Captial Audiofest 2025. And once again, you have Marc and Brian on the radio for you. Marc Phillips, editor-in-chief of PT.audio, part-time audiophile. We got the crew, a refined crew. The founder of PTA, though, I do want to let you guys know, you're talking to the guy who started it all. I don't know, what year did you even start this site?
It was 2009.
2009, before I was even on board, before Marc was on board.
Before you were even born, even.
I was just a speck traveling through the universe.
That's right.
A tadpole.
You were a meme ready to be instantiated.
Yeah. So we're at the show. We're here in D.C., and it's been kind of a whirlwind. I think it's safe to say there's a couple of talking points that we always go through, but we're going to breeze through them this time and get to the good, juicy stuff, the new products that you guys want to hear. But first, the vibe, right? I would say from my experience, the show was a little busier than normal. Marc, what was your experience? What do you kind of think about the show overall and the way it sits in the...
So I was surprised last year. It was the first year I had come in a while, and I was surprised at how large it had grown in my absence. And this year it's even bigger. It is turning into Axpona, while we've just received news that Axpona is expanding by 20 rooms, so that's going to make them the new Munich. Mm-hmm. And so these shows are getting big. They're tougher to cover, but they're great for attendees because there's so much to see and so much to listen to.
And I guess Vienna is the new Munich, right?
Vienna is the new Munich. Munich is becoming Vienna.
At least for 1 year, right? We're not sure if it's going to stay there. There's a lot of rumors flying around right now. So we'll give it a shot, see what it looks like, and
I would love to go to a different city every year. I think that would be awesome.
Yeah.
Are we sending anybody out to PTA to your where?
For Vienna?
Yeah, for Vienna.
I think, aren't we all going?
Oh, I guess we're going. I guess I'm going too now.
There you go. Thanks for signing up, Ryan.
I just got roped in out of nowhere. So the show's popping. It's been good. I think the floor vibe is good. No incidences so far. I know we've had like a couple of like Vegas like kind of things, but no, everything's been pretty chill. Everybody's pretty up.
No brawls.
No physical violence of any type.
Very disappointing, actually, and no one passed out. So I've not seen any ambulances arriving.
Yeah.
No incidences of suspicious food poisoning or anything like that. Nothing like that at all.
And you know what's even better? No crocodiles.
No crocodiles. And Marc apparently has learned his lesson. He's completely avoiding all of the food available in the lobby.
No lobby dogs. That continues. That advice continues. Forever.
I will say there was a first for me in the restaurant. I have never seen this before in my entire life. We're sitting down. I look down. I see a mouse run across the floor. Yeah. So that was unfortunate. But hey, it's not all about the food here. There's plenty of restaurants. We didn't come for the restaurant. There's a surprising amount of 2 ramen stores within walking distance, 2 ramen restaurants. So there's some fun stuff and some desserts. But what we really came for, what was it, folks? It was for the audio
ramen. Audio ramen. That's the name of the new website. We just found out about Audio Ramen right next to HiFi Chicken and HiFi Barbecue and Audio Bacon.
But it's true. Those are all real things, by the way, folks. He's not making that up. Those are all real HiFi things. So yeah,
I love it.
Yeah. Now this show is a little bit smaller in scope than Exponent is, but there's still probably, what would you say? We have about 4 floors, or 3 or 4 floors, and then the big guys on the main level. We're all counting on our fingers.
This is actually very manageable. If you remember Rocky Mountain, and the tower in Rocky Mountain, and how jammed that tower got.
And then it would break down and get even more jammed.
Oh my God. And you're a mile above seafloor, so you're already hyperventilating just walking around. So this is nothing like that. And it wasn't, Marc's right, it's bigger, but it's still kind of manageable.
The big problem with Exponent is the sheer amount of real estate you have to travel, because it's a huge conference. And that's a lot of it. I always said that Exponent is harder to cover than Munich is, even though Munich is bigger, but it's more concentrated. You can just go boom, 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 boom. Where in Exponent, it's like, I got to walk a half a mile to the next room.
I get my 20,000 steps.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. That's no problem. Not in Exponent, I'm losing weight just being there. Yes.
Yeah. And there was a little surprise this time. The hotel that we're staying in across the street, there was an extra bonus 2 rooms. I don't know if you guys saw it, but there's 2 down on the floor. So it's a hotel, 3 or 4 floors, and then a bonus 2 across the street. But I did see some really interesting stuff. The first thing I want to mention is that there was this mechanical turntable called the
Magnazar. Yeah, from Captial Audio.
Yeah, Captial Audio. And this thing, it has like a barbish type spindle. It comes up and then, it extends. But most importantly, it holds down the record mechanically, so you have like a super flat experience. And I went up, I got a video, check it out. It's up on the socials and on our YouTube channel. But it is just kind of like a wild, like extravagant thing that's a joy to kind of watch.
It's got a linear tracking tone arm. That actually was pretty cool, the way that thing pivoted across the platter. And that's like the least interesting thing about this turntable. I love the way that the record clamp is integrated into the platter, just pops up, over, and then clamps the record, and at the same time, the spindle, like you said, splits, turns into a clamp that comes down the middle, so the whole record is flat, and it's automatic when you move the tone arm across the record. I think it's fascinating. It's $68,000. It's got a lot going up for it, and that's with the tone arm, $68,000. I mean, it's out of my price range, but I look at that and I see, okay, that makes sense. It looks the part.
This is exactly what I'm saying. It looks the part. It feels like, that took some doing.
So it's a turntable, right? You're spinning a platter. You're putting a needle into a groove. Something is vibrating. And somewhere down the line, there's sound. It's not necessarily all that different from when it was invented in the 1600s. I have no idea. It's really old, this technology. So seeing people innovate around this stuff it's still fun.
Exactly right. It's just innovation. Anything to innovate gets me going. Scott, what do you think was the most innovative thing, or did I just take it?
I think that was it, to be perfectly honest. It's the thing that I've never seen before. You see integrated record clamps, you see hold-down mechanisms. You rarely see them built into the turntable quite so thoroughly. Soda has a long history of doing vacuum hold-downs. This is a mechanical hold-down. I personally prefer it. Mm-hmm. And it's just seamless. It just works. You don't have to do anything. You just literally pick the tone arm, lift up, and you move it over the record, and the record player takes over. And it's just cool. Yeah. I like that. So of the things that I have seen and actually got to see something happen, I thought that was pretty neat. There's a couple other turntables I saw which would have some really cool tech in them. But of the ones that I got some time with, that was number one.
One of my biggest surprises for this show was there's this thing that I've said many times on the podcast, is that when I first started this, I think I would be I feel like I hear a real instrument in this room. It's so captivating. It's so real. It sounds so real. And this time I was walking by a room and I was like, oh my God, this stereo has it. It sounds like there's a freaking horn in there. And I go running over. It was early in the morning. I go running over to see it. And God damn it, it was a real horn. Oh.
You thought you heard a breakthrough.
I was so
The final
excited,
veil is dropped.
I was like, no, this is without a doubt the best stereo ever invented. It sounds, and it was just a bamboozle. So a slight disappointment on that end, but
coincidentally, it was Bamboozle Audio.
It was. It was really good showing on the first floor. So the first floor has the big rooms and big fun speakers, and it didn't disappoint. If you came here just for entertainment value and you want to see big shiny things with big shiny sound, that was the place to do it. What did you have? You probably had a couple, but what was your favorite kind of on the first floor?
Well, first of all, I mean, you were talking about innovative, and so we're talking about turnable audio, and that's that power supply. And the way he does it, he just takes it a bit further than anybody else has even thought of doing it. And this is a power conditioner that is, it's close to $100,000, and it's going to make a lot of people go, ugh. But it's the way he does things are so thorough, and that nobody else goes to these lengths that he goes to make sure that signal transmission is as pure as possible. And it even has a bank of grounding hubs built into it, so you can plug everything in, and then you hook up all the grounding terminals. It's amazing. It looks beautiful, and I have a lot of experience with his cables now that I just completed a review. This stuff is absolutely incredible. It sounds like nothing, absolutely nothing, which costs a lot of money to do. And for me, when it comes to innovation, he is leading the pack right now. He's doing some amazing things with cables and power management.
What do you think was kind of the best, more budget thing that you heard at the show?
So I did hear, I mean, we can go back to that room and talk about Chesky Eastern Bay Sound, and he has the new larger version. He had that small speaker that came out last year. It was under $1,000 a pair. It really surprised a lot of people. This is a larger one. It's a single full range driver. And I heard it in the Belson room. It was Belson and LTA, and they had a really nice system. But it did a really good job at bass. I mean, I think his little speakers did pretty good for their size. Yeah. This one's a little bigger enclosure, but when the bass started kicking in, it was nice and it was tight. And I really enjoyed the sound. And this was a system that was not super expensive. I mean, the Belson, it's the Radiance Phonostage is only $3,000. It had a HiFi Rose. They were doing digital through HiFi Rose. And they had the LTA stuff, the ZOTL 40, which is very nice, and it's not cheap, but it's also not very expensive. The LTA stuff offers a lot of value for the sound that you get, and that system really impressed me. And also Belson is just, you know, they're brand new. They've been doing making voltage regulators forever, and some of the finest in the industry. They just started doing phonostages. I reviewed the Brilliance, the more expensive one, last year. It was really superb. I mean, they just came out and they hit the ground running with a really good product. This is the one that's it's more modest, but only because it only has one input. But it's very much, the internals are very much the same. So it's a small box, $3,000, superb sound. And that was, I believe, was a concert fidelity turntable with an Audio Technica cartridge.
At least just keep pulling details out. That's like so nuanced. I love it. And let's see. And the temperature in the room was 68.5 degrees. Yeah, 5 degrees.
The lighting on the turntable was just a real soft rose. That was just.
This segment is brought to you by the voice that is an Equitech Balanced Power. For over 30 years, Legendary Studios have trusted a secret weapon you've probably never heard of, Equitech Balanced Power. From Atlantic and A&M Records, Sony Recording Studios, and Windham Hill, to artists like Stevie Wonder, Herbie Hancock, and Steely Dan, to name a few. Balanced Power is the invisible foundation beneath pristine audio. For over a decade, the voice that is has been winning awards with its custom Equitech solutions. Unlike traditional audio conditioners, Equitech devices eliminate noise at the source before it reaches your gear. If you're chasing clarity or tired of hum, Balanced Power might be the upgrade your system is missing. This isn't subtle. Equitech's Balanced Power lets your system perform as intended. The difference has to be heard to be believed. Ready to unlock the performance your gear has been capable of all along? Ask Doug White at The Voice That Is for their Balanced Power configurations for the audiophile world. They'll configure a model that's right for you. Contact Doug at thevoicethatis.com to learn more about their services. This episode is also brought to you by The Voice That Is, an authorized REL reference subwoofer dealer. TVTI features REL subwoofers from the Series S line, which includes the new Carbon Special Black Label product. TVTI is a selected reference dealer. Why? They are experienced at demonstrating the Carbon Special subs as well as REL's reference model number 31 subwoofers and arrays. Experience musical bass that blends with your system. Tight, controlled power that integrates well with your main speakers. A stereo pair of REL subs enhances the depths and image and the musical soundstage, reproducing the foundation in music that is often missing. TVTI's goal isn't loud bass. It's musical, room-filling bass that integrates beautifully with your system. If you want precise power from a trusted REL dealer, visit TVTI and let us show you how REL reference series subwoofers can elevate every note, every musical moment. Get deep with REL subwoofers at The Voice That Is. See thevoicethatis.com.
What else did you like at the show?
Oh, there's a lot of stuff. I mean, I always hit the Songer audio, and it just rocked my world when I reviewed it. The field coil drivers, single cone whizzer cones, but he makes them all himself. And every year he comes to the show with more products. So last year he arrived with his own big 300B amp that was just absolutely incredible, 6 watts per channel. But it's such a perfect package with his speakers. And it's one of those rooms that I walk into and I just lose time. I just kind of go, oh man, and I forget about who I am and what I do, and I just want to hear more music. And it's just an amazing sound, and it just kind of confirms that I got a thing for field coil speakers nowadays, because they just seem to do things nobody else does.
Right.
And now we're seeing more and more field coil designs. Audio Note obviously has their A&Es are now field coil, and it improved the sound. And Ken Songer told me when I reviewed them that he views field coil as the best foundation to build a speaker design upon, because it already takes out so much of the equation by supplying a very closely regulated magnetic field. So you don't have permanent magnets on the cones. You have a motor generating just the precise amount of magnetic energy. And it's every time I hear a field coil speaker, I go, oh man, I love this thing. So I think I'm a field coil guy. I really do.
Bookshelf and field coil guy, I guess. Is there
There's not a lot of them, but I think there's a couple that come close to being like a Wolf on Longa has a very small speaker called the Sohn, which I absolutely adore, and it is field coil. And it's just something about it just makes everything just sound more solid in there. And it's satisfying, and for 6 watts per channel, but very, very efficient speakers, it sounds like he's got a big giant Wampin amp in there that really drives. It's always surprising to go in that room. He usually plays Chocolate Chip Trip for me, and on a 6 watt amp, and it's amazing. It has so much texture to it. So that was a great room.
And we were talking a little bit in the last podcast about Inuas and how they're, I would say, brave enough to do their own ABs, live demos in their room. And you and I got a chance to stop by ISO Acoustic, who was doing a similar AB. Yes. And I would like to give them a thumb up stamp of bravery for doing so, because you never know what's going to happen. But in this case, it was for their isolation footers.
The Gaia Neos. So they had it wired up to where they were turning it on and off while the music was playing. And so the green light would come up on top of the amp, and it would turn on when it was on, and go off when it was off. And it wasn't subtle to the point where I was like looking down at my notes and writing notes, and I knew when it was on and off. I didn't have to look at the green light. Yeah. Besides, I had somebody's head right in front of me, and I couldn't see it anyways. But that's how obvious it was. It just added more air, more space. And I'm actually, in the VPI room that you mentioned, and the Acora little MRBs, which I have at home. So they had a pair in there with the Acora speaker stands that I also have. But they put these Gaia Neos in between, and all of a sudden, I want to try it out, because while I have the speaker still, because it really sounded fantastic. Yeah.
I will say this, because they took the time to do the AB, I will tell you what I heard. And it is similar to your experience. It was not subtle. It was more air, more presence around. It was obvious. It was stark contrast, right? Stark contrast. Like I said, they might have done something behind the scenes that I wasn't aware of, but I didn't see anything. I didn't see any of that stuff, and the switcher worked quick enough, and they were very generous with like the timing, and there was a big difference. So I don't know. Marc, what else was one of your highlights?
Okay, so I've been Gestal Audio is a distributor, and I've been working with him lately just because he has a lot of the brands that I really love, Wolf on Longa speakers. And so he had a system there, and he does Swix, but their amplification, and Cinnamon, which is a brand he's had that has just strikingly beautiful products that they're just really distinctive looking. They all have these like silver domes on top of it. So it was Cinnamon open baffle speakers, and it was primary control turntable, and I was in there for far too long. I couldn't get out of there because it was just so wonderful.
I love it when that happens.
Yeah. And so I didn't want to leave. I could have just, visited the one room and then visited, Doug's room, and that would have been the show, and I could have gone home and been happy. But Gestalt Audio, Colin King, he has got some fabulous taste in gear, and that room was really, really special.
Yeah, and Acora Acoustics was in a bunch of different rooms this time, and they had a visually interesting kind of showpiece. So he's known for his granite or quartz cabinets. It's hard cabinet, unique material. This one was glowing from the inside, so it had like an interior kind of lighting system, which was kind of fun and cool to see if you want a showpiece for your friends. I thought that was interesting. But they appeared in a lot of rooms, including the VPI room. They had the bookshelf all sizes, and I just like to say, whatever room they're in, it's pretty much a good sound for my taste, at least.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Scott, did you have a highlight you wanted to share?
So let's go back up. So that KL Audio turntable was actually in a system, right? And this was one of the rooms I spent too many minutes in. The Stephen Norber speaker, the Prana, which he developed a few years back, sounded amazing, fronted by this turntable. So I heard some best of sound show in that room. It was absolutely excellent. It's one of those brands that people don't really spend a lot of time thinking about. Prana Fidelity, it doesn't necessarily hit the best of reels probably often enough, and it's a shame because he's a kind of amazing speaker designer, and his rooms sound so good. He's also just a gentleman, nice dude. My friends over at Border Patrol Triode Wire Labs were showing off a brand new DAC from Gary Dews, Border Patrol, the Zola. About $4,000, still relatively affordable on the ultimate scale of things, but unlike his previous DAC, which is still one of my favorites, this one happens to be high res, so you can run whatever you want into it. It's got a really tight-looking aesthetic. I think the multiple tubes give you some options for tube rolling. So if you feel like customizing it, that's something you can do. But the standard sound I thought was worthy of his work. It's a little different, which is actually kind of fun. What else did I see that was really kind of awesome? The Belair, the little tiny speaker, the 1+1 V5. It's so small, right? But the sound is so big. Yeah. So the Bellari is like that multiplied by a couple of orders, and it's got an active low end and very customizable for the room. It's got some kind of low end room correction. The sound was extremely coherent, extremely neutral and natural, and lots and lots of air in there. And it reminded me a lot of that QLN sound that part-timers seem to really love. So I went and visited with our friend Marc Sosa and checked out the QLN, the brand new version of the Prestige, which is new at this show. He was also showing at the show the brand new Marison DAC, the DAC 1 Mark II, which is now out and available. It's fantastic. So that was one of my favorite rooms also. The Bricasti guys has a new, Brian Zollner has a brand new loudspeaker. It looks a lot like some speakers that we might be familiar with, but this S7 at $30,000 a pair is surprisingly great. It's not what I would expect from a pro audio background guy who did reverb and DACs, and now he's making full systems end to end. I think it's worth checking out. I think that this show had a lot of really great stuff. So while I had that high watermark early in the show, I had repeated elements where I got to see and hear some stuff that I would be delighted to see part-time audiophile writers write about, because I think our readers would really love to get more info on this stuff. This is a good time to be in the industry. Really good time to be buying.
Yeah, and I think that there are a couple of brands out there that are like they go to the show to rely on foot traffic that comes from the other brands when they're starting out. But then there are a couple of brands that are so powerful, they actually are like the destination brands where people just show up regardless of what floor they're on. And the two brands that really come to mind from this show are SVS, being one for their subs, but two, they also are one of the very few surround sound home theater brands that are, again, brave enough to show up at a 2-channel audio show. And then they're a destination for people. They show up, people come, where's SVS? Okay, I'm going there, and there's like a huge line out the door. The other one at the show, and he hasn't been going to shows much, Sean Casey of Zoo Audio. You stand out the room, you see the people pile in there. They come to see him. They come to see Sean. They come to talk to him. He's sitting there for 5 seconds. A guy comes in and he's just like, hey, Sean, how are you? I've always wanted to meet you. Da-da-da-da-da. And he had an interesting, the SVS guys, just, going back there, they had their like a 2-channel room set up nicely. And also their home theater scared me a little bit. One of the things that I talked about with those guys was the ability for music and sound and in home theater especially to start and stop so fast. So you want, like, if there's a slam of something, if it goes bam, and the bam doesn't kind of bounce around the room, you hear the speaker bounce out and return. And this was the demo they were running where somebody is hitting something and it's like a sudden and short jerk and that tail end just dies immediately. And it's scary. It sounds scary. It sounds real, right? So that was fun. Sean's room, on the other hand, he had what I would consider to be mostly affordable brands for the every person. So if you hear us talk about a lot of really expensive stuff and you're saying, well, what's for me? Zoo Audio had a room that was really designed for people that weren't really ready to drop 10 grand on a speaker. He had his bookshelves, which I think are under $1,000. His new bookshelves are in there. He's really known for like the entry-level Omen, but the bookshelves are kind of even cheaper, a little bit smaller. And here's what he had with amps. So he has a Neve console running pre. No one does that, okay? No one has a Neve console running pre. And then 2 turntables, no microphone, but 2 turntables, right? And they're both Technics. So he's spinning a DJ setup and running it into 3 different power amps. 1, Shit Audio, their Azier. 2, the Pats Labs power amp, and Black Ice Audio. So these are 3 different brands that are relatively affordable in relation to kind of how his speaker went. And again, good sound, good vibes. But man, he loves to go off script with the music. I'm sitting outside the room and I'm talking with his lovely wife, and she says like, yeah, sometimes he just plays crazy stuff. And as she finished saying it, all I hear coming through the wall is screaming. It may have had some music, but the music was so quiet compared to the screaming coming through. And I was like, love that, man. He's off script.
So I had a slightly different experience in that room. No screaming, but music I didn't recognize. And so this is like one of 2 rooms I went into where it was about the music. The system was irrelevant, almost. Yeah, it's fine. He's there. He's representing a brand. He's got an aesthetic, all of that. But he could care less. Yeah. He didn't want to talk about the speakers. He didn't want to talk about the gear. What he wanted to talk about, what he was spinning. That's what he wanted to talk about. It was this cool thing that he found. I have no idea where he gets this stuff, and actually, he's apparently got a team of young people, and they just feed him good stuff. And he just collects this stuff and brings it to us, and he just does not care if this is audiophile quality, or if you like it, he likes it. The other room that did stuff like this was the AGD, the Audio Group Denmark room, where I was introduced to a bunch of growling Danish people howling into the wind. But it didn't necessarily clear the room. If you were not ready for this, Lars is never going to be your demo guy. But when he does do a demo, he shows a system and he plays music that, it's kind of funny that this guy would be listening to this because he's a little older. But it's like Norwegian metal. It's weird stuff that I've never listened to. But I'm sitting there going, this is actually one of the coolest demos I've been to. It's for the music. Yeah, the speakers are very expensive. Yeah, the amps are crazy expensive, and they're really got cool technology. But the guys are in the room just doing this, grinning at you like, hee hee hee, the entire time where they're playing whatever they want to hear. And that's just that kind of fun, that kind of enthusiasm, you don't hear that a lot in a lot of rooms. And that's, I think, missing. So when you find it, it's just awesome. So those are the two like highlights from today that I had that were kind of against the trend, but still really fun experiences. I enjoyed that a lot.
I think that there is a happy medium in between that. If you really want to torture your system with a torture track, the first Rage Against the Machine album that came out is a good measuring stick for punch, dynamics.
Oh, sure.
And it's a bunch of metal, but it's really, really iconic, great metal. Maybe one of the greatest rap, rock, whatever albums ever made.
Yeah.
And you can still listen to it and be like, if you're trying to evaluate, because goodness, the freaking song slams so hard. It's like, it can crush a lesser system, I guess, if that's what you're looking for.
I think it's fun when you get to have that kind of experience.
Well, I will say one thing, though, is that the two things that seem to be a common theme in a lot of these rooms is that everybody was playing Pink Floyd, and they were playing Pink Floyd The Wall, and everybody was playing Bob Marley. And those two things, and I think it gets back to when people complain that it's the audiophile tracks that we're all tired of, and that they're trying to actually play what people like. Pink Floyd, Bob Marley, and the Bob Marley stuff, like the one-step LPs that have come out, just sound fantastic. More people should be playing Bob Marley at these shows.
Actually, that's not a bad endorsement. We should have shirts printed up that say, play more Bob Marley. That's really fun.
I will say I did have something happen that has never happened before, and Mark was in the room with me. Hey You comes on 2 minutes into one room. We go to the next one. Right as we get in, the next track, Hey You again. Yeah. In separate rooms. It's like it's following us from room to room wherever we went.
It's a glitch in the Matrix.
And as we're sitting there, I turn and I point to Mark, and there's the exact same black cat walked by the doorway.
So weird. Yeah, there's some really interesting stuff here. So speaking of glitches in the Matrix, you see the same people, which is kind of fun. These shows, I think my favorite part about these shows is the thing that happens around the show. Seeing old friends, seeing new friends, seeing friends with friends coming to these shows and going all gaga. I'm seeing more couples. I don't know if anybody noticed this, but I saw a lot of couples at the show.
Me too.
I agree with that.
So there's a couple destination audio stations in this place. So Angie Lisi was here with the Avant-Garde, those giant horns. I kind of wish I had a house where I could have a sound system that was this big. But they're just magical sounding. I saw my friend John Durda totally zoning out in front of these giant speakers. And it just that one moment, watching him, listening, and I got to sit down and do the same thing, and it's transportive. But you have this kind of experience all over the show where people come in, sit down, and have their eyes open up, their mouth drops a little bit. They're like, wow. And I think that's really cool to be able to share that with friends, share that with family members, share that with even total strangers. It makes these shows kind of magic.
One of the more interesting stops I had was our friends at Von Schweikert.
Von Schweikert with Vinny Rossi.
Vinny, right.
What amazingly good idea. I said, I'm so glad that the two of you got together, and the sound in that system was really, really spectacular.
So if you want to talk about sheer fun factor, aside from zoo audio, if that's not your cup of tea, fine. AGD, right? Getting all of those cool brands, Avik and Borison together. If that wasn't your cup of tea, that's fine. You know where you can always go, right? And that would be the rooms that just happened to have a Cora loudspeakers in there. If you ended up in a corner of the show where Matt and Harry Weisfeld were holding court, the energy there was just electric, fun. They were having way too much fun, father-son kind of handoff. I don't really understand how they work together so well, but they do, and they seem to love it. And everyone around them is just kind of bemused. And now you see the youngest generation. Matt keeps bringing his kids to these shows, and they're hilarious. So we got to listen to K-pop Demon Hunters, and that was just amazing. I would say that of all the things I had anticipated to experience this weekend, that would never, ever have made the list. But it was fun. And seeing Matt's kids dance to it, absolutely priceless.
Mm-hmm. Any other kind of new or exciting or unusual finds for you this time, Mark?
I'm going to say that the biggest one had to be to Moon Audio.
Oh, yeah.
And they have their new brand, Saros Audio, and their Europa. It's their brand. And I listened to it with the DCS Bartok and the Focal Clear MGs, which is one of my favorite headphones of all time. And I sat down and I listened, and I was all of a sudden I was having fun. I was streaming, I was doing all this stuff, and I'm like, it makes me want to go back to Can Jams and hang out and see them and listen. They've always been such a great resource for headphone stuff, but now they're putting out their own stuff, and it's fantastic.
Yeah, I got a chance to talk to him about it, and he made a point to point out how expensive each of the parts was. You know, that's kind of one of the things that not everybody's super transparent about. He's like, look at this. You see this tiny little thing? Cost me $15 per, and I have to have 4 of them in there, and this and that. And I'm like, dude, I appreciate that. Mm-hmm. Like, you're not trying to hide anything. You're like, $15, man. Look how small it is. He even went as far as to say, it's like, these are so expensive. In this one section, we went with the top model, but in the lesser sections, I only went with the mid. I was like, dude, this guy is being very transparent. Anyways, I appreciate that. You know, when you throw more money at something, and the sum of the parts is a thing, but also the parts mean something.
This episode of the Occasional Podcast is brought to you by The Voice That Is, a premium partner for Title Audio of Germany and an authorized Title by Bugatti dealer. Title Audio builds speakers and electronics of the highest performance and quality, winning multiple awards worldwide. Title Audio has a 26-year history of being recognized for its product's transparency, unmatched finish, attention to detail, and uncanny ability to allow the listener to hear further into the music. Experience the award-winning Prisma preamp, Contrast digital controller, Farios G2 monoblock amps, Contriva G3, and Piano G3 speakers, along with all-new AP1 amplified speakers, which complement the Title electronics. Experience the extreme performance of the Title by Bugatti MC1 and MP1 components, which tells the ultimate Title story. Check out Title Audio's luxurious line of products at thevoicethatis.com and schedule a personalized experience. This episode, brought to you by The Voice That Is proud to be selected as one of the few dealers in the country to carry the prestige cable line from Turnbull Audio. Engineered to mitigate the harmful effects of noise, Turnbull Audio uses several proprietary technologies to preserve signal purity and reject external interference. Turnbull Audio's goal is to enhance the emotional connection that you have with your music. New from Turnbull Audio is the all-new Prestige Power Distributor, which features all the innovations of the Prestige line, plus a newly developed grounding treatment and optimization, delivering a blacker background and unrestrained dynamics to all your components. Want to find out more? Contact Doug at The Voice That Is to discover what Turnbull Audio can do for your musical journey.
Dr. Vinyl was hosting a room, but it was the big Sound Labs speakers. But it's the LTA has their new big, expensive Century monoblocks. And that system sounded fantastic as well. And so I've always liked LTA a lot, but this is upscale. This is flagship. This is not cheap stuff. And it just absolutely sounded magnificent in there. And I'm not a big full panel electrostatic guy.
How big were they this time?
They weren't 9 feet tall. They were the next one down, so they were more like 7 feet tall.
Tiny. I don't even know why you bother.
I know, but you know what? That system, and then of course Jay Sakura, that was where they have their new Aspire turntable, which is their entry-level one. It's at $10,600, including the arm, and that is an awesome turntable. So that was another fantastic room that I heard. I almost forgot about that. But it was very impressive. But the LTA Century, that's a great amplifier. It really is.
Do we have anything else to add?
I'm happy with the show. I was happy last year. I think this is a great show. I enjoy coming here.
Yeah, it feels still manageable, right? It is getting bigger. They seem to be on top of the growth for whatever it's worth. It seems to be managed and managing itself. The people, the energy is good. It was not overwhelming. I wasn't slammed. I've been to a couple of shows where it's difficult to get into a room ever. Now, it wasn't necessarily the case today.
That's true. I always had a good sweet spot chair when I walked in.
Yeah, I was able to. It wasn't not a long wait. I'm not as interesting or as important as Marc, so I usually have to wait.
It's embarrassing.
No, he's like it is like Moses, dude. The Red Sea parts in front of you. Yeah.
Parts.
So yeah, did you catch anything that was surprising to you?
I think that I was really surprised again by the Von Schweikert and Vinny mix, because it just seems like it's something that should have happened a long time ago because it's such a natural match. And once I sat down and listened to it, I said, "Of course this makes sense. Of course this sounds great." So that was a pleasant surprise. I walked out of the room. I said, "Oh, look at all these brands all together. What a great idea!" I was happy. It put a smile on my face.
Yeah, because Vinny has partnered with several different brands over the years. He's one of the few guys. He makes great stuff. I know we all like him. I've always been impressed. But I've seen him part with Harbath, QLN, all this different stuff, and it's very refreshing. And
YG, he's been doing with YG for a while, and now he's with Von Schweikert, and it was a natural match. And I was in a room today, and it was JMF and it was YG, and Michael Vamos was saying that it's like you don't have to worry about system matching as much when all of the stuff is so great and operating at such a high level that any kind of combination you make is going to be satisfying in some way rather than having to balance things against each other. And I thought that was a pretty interesting thing as well. And that was a great room as well, too. But I love JMF, so.
Surprise. I was surprised that Deviollet is here. Did you guys?
I did see them.
I haven't seen them out and about, so it's interesting to see them back on the circuit with their kind of distinctive equipment and distinctive sound. It was nice. That was nice. I saw the Revox, the new tape deck.
Yeah.
So I think there's a lot of folks that would like to steal that. You know what? Honestly, I'm going to come back to your thing you said earlier. Probably one of my favorite experiences, was that SVS demo. I was.
Those big speakers, the big
shocked.
speakers they have, I listened to it, and they just have a simple Hagel integrated and some kind of streamer. And I sat there and listened to those speakers, and I said, "This is such a good sound for a company that's famous for their subs. Their speakers are very accomplished, and they're very balanced, and they're very pleasing to listen to. And they also, for obvious reasons, they're also great in the low end. But SVS is really good stuff.
$5,000.
$5,000 a pair for their flagships, and they were amazing.
And they really do have a grip on the low end. I mean, there's like a 12-inch at top and bottom and top.
Yeah.
I was impressed by that. The one thing I'm most annoyed about at this audio show and every other audio show is just how many records are on sale, knowing that I have to get on a plane. So sad. But, I know, so all of these locals, and I got to see so many folks that I know who happen, I know you're overhearing their conversation, so they're just coming in for the day. So they're coming in locally, they're here to shop, and there are more records clearing the floor than I personally would have expected. I saw an enormous number of records being sold, like for sale, and a lot of them actually walking away. So people are still buying LPs by the gross, which is, I think, a really encouraging sign. The fact that they're buying music, not just buying systems. So that was kind of nice.
Imagine that.
Fun and games.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good show.
Yeah. Good show. Yeah. In the future, what's in the future for us?
Florida, in terms of show coverage, we got Florida coming up, and then, of course, Expona after that. In terms of the podcast, we have a nice concentrated section of PT Awards season starting in December.
Working on it right now.
Yeah.
We have this show, then we have the Buyer's Guide the first weekend of December, and then we have Product of the Year, Best Value, and I'm going to do my Best Bookshelf of the Year. And
Are we going to have some arm wrestling going on? I think there might be some throwdowns happening.
Well, we could just calm everyone down. Marc, just tell us what the best of product is right now. It is a secret, folks.
It's a well-guarded secret. It's in a sealed envelope that only I have in my possession in a safety deposit box deep in the Cayman Islands. And so nobody's going to know until I write it and it gets published. You're going to be like, oh.
Yeah, that's a good stuff. I'm looking forward to that.
But I'll tell you guys after the show. Good.
Anyways, thanks guys so much for joining me. I appreciate you both, and we'll see you at the next one. And like again, keep an eye out or an ear out for all the stuff coming out in December. pt.audio is the website. We'll have all the published lists, recos, everything your little heart desires in terms of recommendations and best sounding gear. And trust me when I say we've had ears as a staff on so much gear this year.
I'll tell you right now, for Product of the Year, this is a year where we reviewed a lot of amazing stuff.
Very competitive.
There's so many choices right now.
Yeah. It was a good year for audio.
Yeah.
Actually, it is a good time to be in the hobby.
It is. There's just great things going on.
The Occasional Podcast is a production of the Part-Time Audiophile Network, which includes parttimeaudiophile.com, The Occasional Magazine, the PTA newsletter, and audiohead.com. You can stay in touch with us on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. The Occasional Podcast is produced and hosted by Brian Hunter, executive produced by Scot Hall at PTA Productions. The Occasional Podcast and its original associated music is monitored, mixed, and mastered on the Focal Trio 6 BE studio monitors. AI songs produced by Udio.com. If you haven't already, please subscribe to the Occasional Podcast on iTunes, Google, Spotify, or wherever your favorite podcasts are downloaded.